Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark, and with me is Mr. Mat Germain. And we are going to dissect that lovely game we all love so much, baseball, right here on Baseball Biz on Deck. How the heck are you doing, Matt?
I'm enjoying the summer, Mark, and I hope everybody else is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my gosh. I was looking the other day, and baseball, this season, we've already achieved 100 games. It was like, okay, I know, I think mid-season just passed, so 81 games passed, and 81 ahead of us. But no, we've got 62 games ahead of us, and it has been an interesting season. We'll have to talk about the Rays in a minute. But right now, I want to talk about the Women's Baseball Classic that's going on right now in Rockford, Illinois. And boys and girls, if you haven't been watching this, you should. We're looking at 6 teams that are playing there. They're going to do round robin. And right now, I think the USA should be playing here shortly. But, Matt, it has been a wonder. I was watching Canada earlier today, and those women are just phenomenal. And I don't know. It's so easy to blame jet lag on, with Hong Kong coming all the way here and that sort of thing. But, man, did they get it handed to them. Now, in women's baseball, you may realize that the bases length may be the same, but what isn't is the number of innings in a game. And that is 7. There's a mercy rule, and there is. You're going to find, like today, where with Australia, they closed this thing out in the 5th inning, and it was unbelievable. It's kind of sad when you see those kind of changes. But what really surprised me today was what happened after that. And then we're looking at, like I said, so Canada did great. Hong Kong just died on the mound.
It is interesting, though, that they have a Hong Kong team, Mark, and we don't see Hong Kong in the men's leagues, right?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, the jet lag could probably be part of it. But the Canadian women, I think every hitter in that lineup got a hit at least. And only one of them, I think, went 0 for 4. The rest of them were on point. So I think it was definitely a good effort.
Yeah, I mean, but it was stunning to watch because I'm looking here and you're looking at what it was, I think 13 to 2. Hang on just a moment here. I go on and on about this.
Nothing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Geez, crackers. And then you have Australia and Mexico playing, and that was something to behold. But they went 7 innings, and the score is 2-2. Now, their rules are a little different, Matt, than ours when you go into extra innings. There's a lot of things that are different. One of them, there's no ABS system, okay? And that's just too bad because I saw where Mexico, I think, got shafted a couple of times. And the other thing is, after 7 innings and you're tied, they don't have the Manfred rule. It's a little different. You have a person on first and second. So you want to stack up some runs real quick. That's the way to do it. And my gosh, Matt, I mean, Australia just took full advantage of it from being 2-2 to 12-2. And then Mexico just was unable to come back from that. And it was sad.
Runs in an inning is impressive. That's
it's insane. I mean, it's a great team. They had some great pitchers, and there was a couple of calls, as there is in any game, where you say, well, if they actually did call that a strike, it would have been over. But no, or they called one person safe for Mexico, but then they tag them with an out after, they go ahead. The Mexican player who was initially called safe was called out, and that was kind of a turning point in the game. There was all kinds of little turning points, but it was amazing. Some fantastic pitchers there, and the players were moving really sharp. But with many games like in MLB, a lot of these games also turned on the number of walks and the number of errors that were in a game. And it's one of those ones you see your favorite player out there on the field and they do something and you're like, gosh, how could you do that? How could you mess up that? That could have easily been a double play and we just missed 2 outs. That sort of thing. I found myself doing that a few times. And see, we got the Rays playing tonight, but we also got the USA playing. And USA, I think, will be playing every night the latest game. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as well.
Yeah, they're up against South Korea tonight, and they're in the second inning. There's no score. So that game is going on. I think all the teams in this kind of play are competitive. So I think the thing to remember is sort of like when you watch baseball, any team can get blown out in any game and come back and look completely the opposite the next game. And I think that's because in this, the pitching really does rule. Like that's what dictates the pace and tone of the game. So when you're talking about that 10-run inning, it all relates back to the pitching, right? The pitching just didn't come through and wasn't tough enough for them to get through it. So it'll be interesting to see what the following is with this and whether or not it gets any traction on the highlights and gets something going that grabs people's attention.
Traditionally, women's baseball has never gotten the attention that it needs in the past, but anybody who wants to see some great teams playing or some great players, this is where you need to be. Now, Matt, when we look at the World Cup results, we're looking over 9 years. And over 9 years, do you want to take a guess who has won the most, has the most gold, and who is running second in gold? There's been only 9 years, so you want to take a guess?
I want to go with Japan, but I don't think that's going to be right.
Trust yourself.
Yeah, I mean, is that right?
Yeah, sure. Trust yourself. That would be good.
Yeah.
So who would you put in that second position for gold?
Canada.
You know, I would have thought as much, but it was the USA. Canada has, of the 9 years, they have 1 silver, 1 bronze. The USA has 2 gold, 3 silver, and 2 bronze. And Japan has 7 gold and 2 silver. So they've got gold and silver all 9 years. They've been there. They've been with it. So that's something for Japan.
I feel like a Japanese attention to detail in this sport and in baseball even, their attention to detail and the finer points of how to get runs across the board and how to prevent them from getting across.
Right.
They are very disciplined and very cohesive in their mentality of how to play the game. And I think it feeds into both men's, women's, doesn't really matter. They do a great job. You just have to look at the results. Doesn't matter who they're playing, and they tend to be competitive at a minimum, but be able to push it across the line in the key moments.
It's really interesting to me watching the women in this tournament because now with the Women's Pro Baseball League, which is going to start up here in a month, you're going to find many players who've been on the women's national teams. So Beth Greenwood, who's been a guest on here in the past, a catcher for the USA Women's National Team, is also in the Women's Pro Baseball League. And what's really cool about Beth is she's catching for Saito. I can probably not say name correctly, Saito from Japan, who is, oh gosh, she's a killer. And Beth Greenwood would say, yeah, I remember being at bat with her pitching. And she goes, it wasn't easy. So a lot of good things going on, my friend. A lot of good things. With that in mind, I think we kind of covered that. I tell folks to go ahead and find a good way to watch it. I did Game Time and gave them $15 and got nothing, honey. I got us, and they said something will start soon, or we'll be right back, and never really did anything. But then, yeah. Well, luckily I found what I'd heard of before, and that's the All Women Sports Network. But I said, where the heck are they? You know, I saw something about Pluto, and then I found them on Prime Video, and was able to watch the game through that. But because this is still new and they're still trying to figure it out, it was a little choppy. It was probably what you would expect at maybe a AAA game, okay? That sort of thing. If you were watching a game in the middle of the inning, and sometimes a middle at bat, they would cut away for a commercial. And Somebody needs to get their AI figured out. That's all I got to figure. Because it's like, come on, guys. And one time they corrected it. Only ran for a few seconds, and another time, no. But it was still well worth watching. So if you want, I would recommend trying, if you got Prime Video, go through that. There's other sources as well. And we'll put some notes on that at the end of the show. But yeah, crazy. Great stuff to watch. Really some great talent and fun. So what's the score now with the USA and Korea?
I believe it is 1-0 USA.
All right.
So we've got somebody on the board.
All righty. That's what we like to hear. Well, now that we've expounded upon what all's going on with women's baseball, let's talk about our true love from so long. And that, of course, is the Tampa Bay Rays and the American League East. And it's been fun watching all of it. I mean, what is it? The Blue Jays, the Red Sox. The Red Sox have 15 wins in a row. And we were kind enough to give them 4 of those wins. Jeez, Matt.
I think they earned them. I don't know if we gave anything away, but the way they're playing is hair on fire. And we have to remember that they're without Garrett Crochet, who's, getting back to health. So this is a dangerous team. Like, this is one that you have to pay attention to, because when the year started, and I think you've spoken to that a couple of times, where I had them, being one of the most competitive teams in the division.
Yeah.
So just because the pitching was so good. And it took a long time for the hitters to catch up to the pitching. But I think now they're there. Like, they're actually firing on all cylinders. They have guys pulling in all different directions that they need. And the poor Blue Jays are just the complete opposite side of that. You feel the tension in the crowd and the fans. Like, they had 41,000 plus at every game against the Rays this week, even on a Monday.
Yeah.
And they still got this lackluster kind of performance from the players. And I know George Springer is finally starting to come back into form. Vladdy is just struggling so much.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think he's had a single home run this year.
It's
just amazing.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things that we can talk about. Like, Bo Bichette leaving, I think, has had a bigger impact on him than people want to admit. But in general, I still relate back to this. And I said this to Matheson, because I used to work with him on Fan Sided. And I was like, Vernon Wells used to talk about the contract weight and how much that puts pressure on you. And when you're looking at the season the Jays had last year, and needing to do it again, knowing that you have to carry a bigger load because Bo Bichette left, you're putting a lot of that weight on your shoulders. But the other thing people don't talk about, and I don't know that he would ever even admit to it, is what if there's an injury? What if he's playing through something that nobody really knows about? Because it is so unlike him. Like, even when he was struggling a couple of years ago, he had the bat speed going. He had, some knocks that made him look like himself again. And the roller coaster ride was a lot smoother. Now it just seems like a complete, I'm lost. I don't know what I need to do to get back to it, sort of.
And you look at what's going on as far as Guerrero Jr. And, geez, come on, Matt. I mean, he didn't go to the All-Star game, and one of the reasons was he gave, I think, because his back was bothering him. Did you hear about that? I mean, to me, that's the sort of thing saying, okay, how old is he? I mean, pardon me, he's not in declining years, but he's not young anymore either.
But the thing is, when you're looking at the bat speed, right? Like, right now with Baseball Savant, you can go online, you can find the bat speeds. He's in the top 15 in the league. So the bat speed is there. Whether or not he controls where the bat goes, again, this is what I'm saying, is when he's at his best, he's making the right decisions. So it's swinging at the right pitches, at the right counts, and maybe people are attacking him differently than they used to, and he's just not making that adjustment back because they found something that's effective. Whatever it is, he needs to figure it out, and do the work to kind of get himself back set, because that team without him is just not going very far. And it's not only him, there's Addison Barger as well, who's been dealing, again, like you just said, a back issue. he has a back issue. I don't know if it's from the couch that he was sleeping on before, but he's having a hard time getting back to form as well.
Yeah.
So picking those two big bats out of the Jays lineup, and I don't know if you saw the play where Dalton Varsho slammed into the wall in center field, and all I kept thinking was, oh man, there's another injury.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, you see that happen and you think, oh my gosh, that player, what's actually going to happen to them for the rest of the season? It's like, I expect to see an imprint into the wall. There's just too much going on. So Springer seems to be okay. I mean, he seems to be a regular, all right. And are you saying about Bichette that you think that, is there an energy? Is there a spirit that when he was extracted, when he left the Jays?
I think that, I watched personally Bo and Vlad come up together through the ranks from like teenagers, right? Essentially going up together, hanging out, being together every day. Whether or not they got along completely the entire time, I have no idea. But what I do know is that there's a familiarity. People talk about when they get traded to another team, there's a whole new, every single person you come across is different, whether or not know them, and you have to rebuild those relationships. And I think for Vladdy, especially somebody who is not really comfortable speaking English a lot of times in a lot of different settings, having to remake those other connections with other people can take some time. Now, the guy they did bring over at third base is having a rough time defensively. And they've been talking about that in the series with the Rays. Overall, their team defense has just been horrendous. And that tends to get people down on each other and down on themselves. And it's hard to pick each other up all the time when everybody is having a rough time defensively. So that pitchers start feeling it. They start to get frustrated with the fielders at the same time because they're doing work and they're not really being supported in the way that they feel they should. There's a whole tension in the team at that point. So everybody's walking around on eggshells at that point and trying to get some sort of positive rhythm going, which is what they were able to do last year. Last year, they were stellar defensively. They worked counts. They wore down pitchers. Why that same similar, anyway, not same, but similar team can't do it again, I don't know. I think when it's a product of success. When you're that successful, people will study you to be able to attack you correctly, right? People probably don't study the Rockies as much as they do the Blue Jays as well.
Yeah. It's, we're if we look into it, the AL East, and we look at these 15 games, I know that the Boston's, their little streak going on here. I think they said there's been nothing like that for about 80 years as far as Boston. And tonight they are playing the Orioles. And the Orioles have got to have, probably the worst record right now. Let's see if I can find it. And hang on. But anyway, the Orioles have been, they've been at the bottom of this beast for some time. Let's see. Well, the Blue Jays now. Let's see. So the Orioles are 49-53. The Red Sox aren't that much different. They're 52-48. And I was looking earlier tonight, and the Orioles were ahead like 4-0 or something like that over the Red Sox. And I thought, wow, that's kind of crazy.
The crazy thing about it is if you're the Blue Jays, right, the bottom team in the AL East, you're only 6.5 games out of the wild card. So,
right, I'm at.
Yeah. So in the American League, there's only 3 teams you can say are completely out of the playoffs, really. The Athletics, the Royals, and the Angels. Everybody else is in it. So that's the hard part about now you're getting to the trade deadline and why that is so slow. Because you have every single team in the American League except for 3 targeting those 3 for the best trade chips that they might have. So those 3 are just going to sit back and say, wow, I'm getting so many phone calls. I'm just going to wait until the price keeps going up, and then I'm going to lock it in once I get my favorite ask. But the American League is ridiculous this year, Mark. Like I haven't seen anything like this in a long time. I think a lot of the people that wanted to keep it just the division leaders going into playoffs will say, see, I told you.
Oh, man.
Go ahead.
Well, no. So if the National League mirrored what's happening in the American League, and you're saying you can have 26 teams, couldn't you? Or is it 24 teams that could be in the postseason.
I think that could aim for it. Yeah. The National League mirrors it in terms of like the number of teams that are in contention. So there's 3 teams in the National League you could count out, which are the Mets, the Giants, and the Rockies. The difference is that the last team that we would say is sort of in the hunt is the Reds. They're 5.5 games behind, but they're just under 500 by 8 games, right? So that's the line that they are. Whereas the Jays are 9 games out of 500 and a whole whack more are out of 500. So in the American League, all the teams right now that would be in the playoffs are the only teams that are above 500. Whereas in the National League, there's actually 4 teams over 500 that would not make the playoffs. As an example, right?
Oh, God.
So it's interesting to watch the differences between the two. But all that to say, Mark, that when you're the Detroit Tigers and you're ahead of the Blue Jays, right? Yeah, you're closer to making it into the playoffs, and you're sitting with Tarik Skubal. What do you do? Like, do you trade him? Do you keep going? You're not only sitting there, and we got to think about this from a Kevin McGonigal sort of point of view. You're the Tigers. You're grooming this young kid who have a frame of mind of a certain mentality of a winner, essentially. So if you go and trade your ace pitcher instead of investing in your ace pitcher, what does that tell him? Like, what kind of tone does it set? So sure, you could argue if we're getting a great deal and we're still able to keep it competitive and we have something that's better for the long term, et cetera, you can make that argument, but you'll never make an argument that what you're getting back is better than Tarik Skubal.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah, we're in building mode, Matt. That's what we're going to say if you're doing that. Pardon me. And let's take a peek at that for a moment, because with trades going on, the deadline's going to be here, was it August 3rd, I believe. And then, I mean, it's like, a week away. So that in mind, are most of the trades going to focus on a long-term objective, or are many of them just looking at, I want to be postseason, and my trades are going to be about that? I need to build a team that can get us into and further down into postseason.
So I think there's a lot of different approaches depending on the team. So for instance, if I'm the Los Angeles Dodgers, I could not care less about my prospect. No. I will hand you whatever you want. If you're the Tigers, call. The vault is open. Take your shopping cart, go through it. Tell me who you want. I just want to replace Shohei Ohtani in the rotation, and I'll go win another championship with Tarik Skubal. I'll worry about the contract after that. We're the Dodgers. If he doesn't want to sign with the Dodgers, where is he going? So they're going to be able to offer the moon and then some. Yeah. So then you're every other team, you're going, yeah, well, the Dodgers can offer that. What am I going to do to match? So it's a very tedious league right now because of how MLB's allowed the perversion of the league to occur, which is, price is no object for certain teams, and it is for everybody else. I don't know how this one rolls out, but I do know that fans are being very demanding, I guess, in a lot of ways from their ownership. Like, just as an example, like the Orioles fan are letting them have it in terms of all the decisions they made to bring them to this kind of season where they're not moving ahead like they were expecting to happen. So if you're the Orioles ownership, you're kind of stuck going, okay, well, do we trade Adley Rutschman? Example. It was the core piece of what you were building, right?
Yeah.
And not only to trade Adley Rutschman, but to trade him after you traded away Caden Bodine to the Rays, who's becoming a stud prospect behind the plate. Mm-hmm. So now, like, if you do trade Adley Rutschman and you did trade Caden Bodine, you're essentially creating a hole at a key position on your team. There's a lot of that going on all around the league, and I could point to a whole bunch of different ones. But I think what you're going to see is a last-minute trade deadline. Like, everybody's going to be very active, but it's going to take that extra week before everybody starts getting very aggressive in locking in those deals. And that includes the Rays. and I have no idea. The first team that I could see actually cashing in on some of their chips is the Rockets. I think they know where they stand. They know they're building for the future. They're not afraid to trade anybody. Hunter Goodman is under demand by so many teams that I think you're going to see him be moved probably before Adley Rutschman or anybody else does behind the plate. And then once he goes or they start getting active, then maybe the Angels, Royals. The Royals just lost Bobby Witt Jr. for a while. They know what their future holds. So, and sadly, the Mets are one of the more intriguing teams because we just spoke about Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Okay. And you're the Jays front office. You've worked with Francisco Lindor in the past. You know, the Mets are having a hard time. You have money to offer. Your stands are full of people. You had to let Bo Bichette go. If you go out and get Francisco Lindor and bring him in, there's a new energy in the team. You've refocused everybody. He speaks Spanish. He can get along with Vladdy Jr. If he's open to that trade, and I think he probably does have a trade clause in his contract, but if he's willing to go to a winner, maybe he's open to doing that. And Toronto's not too far away from New York anyway. So that travel for him back and forth, if he does want to maintain residence there, is doable. So I think that is an intriguing one. I don't know that the Mets are happy with what Juan Soto's provided since he's gotten there and how he's, binded the team together. So again, if you're a team, and I think about the Mariners, if the Mariners wanted to get really aggressive and Jerry DiPoto said, you know what, we think that there's something we can bring in here with Juan Soto to add the oomph that matches our pitching, maybe he does something like that. The Texas Rangers are another team that I could see getting involved. They have young outfielders to offer. Anyways, it's that to say that I think there's enough intriguing pieces once things start rolling that the deadline will be kind of an exciting one. I think Steve Cohen is willing to make some moves happen, and so are the Rockies. So just that starting the ball rolling will get other teams be aggressive.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, but yeah, that's the whole thing with Skubal and like I said, how that would impact. And looking at the Blue Jays and seeing that 40,000 plus fans out there, you want to keep them happy. You want to show that, you guys share the love, and the owners can do that by putting somebody like Lindor in there. And I think it's a good point you mentioned too, him being Spanish speaking, that he and Guerrero and some other ones, they can kind of support and buoy one another up a little more with that too. There's no doubt. I tell you, one of the things I'm thinking about too is that commercial that MLB is running about you, the fans. We love you so much. You asked for it. We put a pitch clock in there, and you'll love it. And now you're concerned also about teams that being fair, having some level ground. Well, we need to get that Players Association to take care of that. Okay, stop, because here's the deal. I'm sorry, you're the friggin' MLB. You're a group of 30 owners, and you can tell the Dodgers where they can go. And my gosh, a team that has deferred salaries for so much. There's so much there, and they can afford to pay all the penalties. But you would think that organization could be strong enough to just say, I'm sorry, this is your budget. There is no more. Instead of saying, oh, we need to have a CBA and talk with the Players Association, and then we could do that instead of doing some self-discipline ourselves. But
I don't know. When you think of it from a business, which is what MLB.com is, it's MLB.biz, essentially. They're not in it for you. They're not in it for me. They're not in it for even their own kids and grandkids. They're in it to make money. And I think if I'm a player, I'm looking at my career, right? And I'm saying, okay, how many MLB players may play for 10 plus years? Not very many. So whatever system you do put in place, you want to try to build one that adds longevity. If you keep paying megastars like Shohei Ohtani and others, 500 million plus, that is never going to happen. because the churn of players needs to continue so that they don't end up paying them out too much. So as an owner, you're forcing your ownership or your groups to abuse pitching because you don't want to have to pay pitchers to a certain point. You want them to get injured and hurt. That way they don't get paid and you wash them off of your whatever. And you start over with a young, fresh arm who's getting paid $800,000 a year, or I think the new CBO will probably be $1 million. But whatever that is a lot cheaper and allows you to go out and get the mega stars afterwards. Yeah. The system is broken because it leads to abuses that are beneficial to the financial terms of the teams. So to me, the salary cap, and the reason I like it and the floor is because it actually allows them to be smarter about the utilization of their players, because each one will be valued at a greater amount as a whole, as a team, instead of being, oh, now I got to keep churning to keep myself on budget and not overpay guys constantly. Yeah. And that includes arbitration. How many guys do we see not get offered arbitration because the team doesn't think they're that valuable? Well, change the system so that you're not having to deal with that, right? And get to free agency earlier and get yourself in the door while you're still having a productive, career, instead of at the back end when all of a sudden, after years of you going up and down from AAA, whatever, then you get the playing time and boom, they say, oh, well, by the way, we don't want to pay you now that you're in arbitration. And then you're 32 years old and you're going, what the, like the system doesn't, and it's built for the owners so that they can actually benefit from those things.
Yeah, but you got to wonder though, Matt, it's built for the owners, but some of these owners are spending so little. And it's like they're just there to get the gravy from MLB, whatever sales are being made, whether you're sales for Dodger shirts for Ohtani, that you're still getting a piece of it. And if you're in the smallest market, spending the smallest amount of money. And that there is lessons to be learned. And I think we talked about this to ad infinitum. But when you look at the Rays and how they spend money, they're smart. The one thing I don't like is it goes back to what you were saying. They're willing to burn up arms to do that. And I'm not a fan of that at all. I see that. So I would hope, again, I don't want to go down too much to CBA tunnel. We'll do that another time. Is that there's a way to tighten up the number of years a player has to go before they can be a free agent and make some real money. We'll see.
Especially on the pitching side. I don't care about the hitters side as much because I do think they're starting to add incentives like for rookies, for this, that, the other thing, where there's a fund of money that goes out for performance bonuses. That is the right idea. That's a good approach. I don't mind that very much. But on the pitching side, they should get the arbitration after through arbitration after 5 years and be free agents. They should only have maybe 2 years of MLB time required before they get to arbitration, so they get paid earlier. There was a point in time where I didn't even know if Drew Rasmussen was ever get paid very much because he was having the injuries at the worst timings in terms of his contract. So luckily the Rays stuck with him. But Shane McClanahan's another example where he had never reached that level. And now finally he's having that bounce back season that says, yeah, okay, he'll get paid. But if he hadn't had this season, he would have been in a world of hurt.
Wow. Well, we'll see. So if we come back just a moment to the trades and talking about our lovely Rays, let's see, what's the score tonight? Wow. I was looking back a few moments ago. It was 1-1, I think. 4-1. Some action's happening on tonight with the Rays. It's Wednesday night playing the Jays again. And so what are we in? We are in, at the top of the 7th already. I blink. It's amazing how the time flies.
Yeah, and it's a Chandler Simpson show tonight. He's got 2 stolen bases, a sacrifice fly. He's just churning and burning. And I think, like, if you're a Rays fan, no matter what, like, there's ups and downs this season, and they were lackluster against the Red Sox. But you have to be happy with the pitching. Like, to me, that's the stabilizing factor. I keep picking on Jax because I keep thinking that he's going to hit a wall at some point, and he's not going to be able to continue, performing the way he has. And tonight he threw 6 innings. 1 run allowed, looked great. Everything looks sharp. So maybe because he's 32, Mark, and he's an older reliever, he just doesn't seem to be getting tired the way that I expected him to get.
Well, that's good to hear because I've had mixed feelings about Jax, and I'd rather see him shine than not. So I'm glad to see he's performing better. That's good news. No, I tell you, Matt, it has been just you were talking about Chandler Simpson and the number of steals. I'm going to go back to WBSC for a moment. Watching those women play, I could not believe how many steals there were during those games. So I'm going to encourage folks to make sure they do see that. And like I said, we'll put some links at the bottom of the show. What else you got on the plate?
Well, I think the Durham Bulls are 16-4 in the second half, and they're having a great time. So they're showing that the Rays have a lot of depth to draw from when they need to. I think some of those pieces are going to get dealt pretty soon. I think the minor league promotions are coming through. We still have to sign Grady Emerson. That hasn't happened yet. But from the signings they've done so far, from what I've calculated, they have saved over $1 million already in the other bonuses that they've given out. So I think the money will be there to get him signed. It's just a matter of working out the deal however they need to. I'm excited. Everything I'm reading on Grady Emerson, Mark, and everything that is actually going out there in terms of the timelines of when we can expect him to get to the Rays, they're saying that he is probably going to be, like, I remember Evan Longoria made it to the Rays in lightning form in terms of when he was selected and when he came through. But I think this might be faster. I think there's a good chance that, by the time they're saying early 2028 is what they're expecting. So what are we now? Mid 2026? So they're giving him basically one full season in the minors and saying then he's ready. So they literally say there is no holes in his game. Defensively, he's sound. Speed-wise, he's sound. Power-wise, he's sound. His mature approach at the plate is sound. So why would you hold that back if he does end up dominating at each level that he opts to? So I'm curious to see with the Rays where he starts, first of all. Does he go to rookie and then jump up? Does he start at low A? And then do they go 1 month at a time, 2 months at a time, whatever it ends up being? Because we know the stadium issues. We know what's happening with Junior Caminero. But if the Rays can put Grady Emerson next to Junior Caminero, I would argue they would have the number one pairing in all of Major League Baseball to attract fans. I don't think it's even close. I think it's that level because of Junior Caminero's trajectory and where he's headed. I think it would set the lineup on fire. It would wear down pitchers. Defensively with Emerson, it would take a lot of pressure off of Junior because his range is going to be excellent as well. So it's not going to downgrade from what Walls is offering right now defensively. So I just think if I'm the Rays right now, I go and get that catcher. If it's Adley Rutschman, sure. If it's Hunter Goodman, sure. Like, go finish off the pieces of your team that are the weakest points traditionally for your team to amp it up for those two guys and sign them long-term, Mark. I want to see the Rays spend significant money on those two players so that when they go to the stadium and they say, listen, we've got two megastars on our plate. Do you want to host them in your city, or do you want to see them play for Houston for Nashville, for Montreal, for wherever? Like, what do you want to do? And then that'll be the biggest leverage that they can provide to that stadium effort, is to say, we've got these guys locked up for 8, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. And then I think the Rays fans deserve it after all the pain of stadium talk that's been since 2007? Still 20 years, Mark.
Anyway, nuts. Well, here's the thing to think about, too. The investment into players on a team, that could actually be something to show. That could be something to actually show the city of Tampa. So the city of Tampa, we're asking for this money if I'm the owners of the Tampa Bay Rays. And I've talked about the halo effect of what all money is going to be coming into Tampa from having a baseball team in Tampa proper. But on top of that, I'm showing a commitment to making that team a success by bringing in and spending money, whether it be for Caden Bodine, whether it be for Emerson, whoever. that is also an investment above and beyond a structure, but still an investment in the future for a team here in Tampa. And I don't think you can forget that completely when they're trying to measure everything that's being spent.
Right. Well, nobody wants to spend that much taxpayer money for a dud, right? In terms of a franchise, I think the Rays have done a good job of earning a good reputation in Major League Baseball in general. I think they're seen as one of the top 10 teams in Major League Baseball annually, front office wise, ownership wise, even product on the field and performance wise. So they're shooting way above their pay grade when it comes to when you're looking at the budget that's involved with the Rays. And the fact that they play out of St. Petersburg, they're not Tampa. They're St. Petersburg. So if you look around the country, how many cities are bigger than St. Petersburg? They're shooting way above when it comes to. So the potential growth of this franchise, Mark, if they're able to not get inflated egos when they get into a new stadium in Tampa and suddenly start changing their moxie or their way of thinking to something that's going to be less productive for them, if they're able to stay level-headed and maintain the course with the added money that they have, it's going to be a dangerous team. And really, when you're looking around the league and the salary cap coming in and everything else, they're going to be the best equipped to deal with that if it does get put in.
I mean, they have been leading the American League for a while as far as, the winningest team. And that's even with that bad stretch after the All-Star games, going to Boston and losing 4. It's like, my gosh, that could happen. Oh, we have to get Matt, we've got to get Nat Gordo back on the show and talk about the Red Sox. Yeah, the resurgence, exactly. But
I think he'll be afraid to talk just to not change what's happening. I got to keep my rhythm going.
That's true. That's true. Oh, goodness. Well, that's all I got, brother. If there's anything else I'm going to recommend everybody look to the Women's Baseball Classic that's going on. And again, this World Cup, it's the first stage. It's a group stage this year. And from there, they will go ahead and next year, again in Rockford, Illinois, have the finals. So think of this as the semifinals. It's just that you got a year between your semifinals and your finals. But that and the Women's Pro Baseball League, plenty to see and do with that.
USA are up 6-2 right now, and Olivia Pichardo has a home run. So that's the way it's going right now against South Korea.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying that. We're going to head out now here, and again, being Wednesday, the 22nd of July, and the bottom of the 7th. Again, the Rays are still leading 4-1. So it looks like a good game here, too. I want to thank you all for joining Matt and I here once again on Baseball Biz on Deck. It's always a pleasure having you here. And make sure you go ahead and like us, leave a review, and give us your notes, give us your ideas, because we're always looking for something new and fresh. And we want to keep it exciting for you, too. So once again, I want to thank you all. And Matt, any other parting words?
Go ahead out there, watch some baseball, enjoy some baseball, buy some popcorn, peanuts, whatever it is you want, and get your families together. And
there you go. Well, thank you all again for joining Matt and I here once again, and hope to be talking with you again real soon.
Bong.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube, at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.